Good afternoon, Mr. Rahil.
Good afternoon also.
Okay, so my first question for you is, what is leadership for you, in essence?
Okay, I think leadership is rising above every difficult situation that you encounter in a specific organization. It's all about knowing who are those people within your organization and knowing also what are the goals within that organization, what are your team goals for that organization. And at the same time, as a leader, you don't actually control people, but instead, given the fact that the word leader comes from the word lead, to lead basically, so it's all about leading people to reach their full potential as active members of that organization. So it's a matter of knowing who are your people who comprise that organization, what are your team goals, and ask your people in what ways can they actually contribute towards the achievement of that particular goal that you have in an organization. That I think is leadership. And at the same time, secondly, on a personal note, as a leader, I think you're a leader if and only if, aside from the things that I've mentioned, you're also able to rise on the most difficult situations that you'll basically encounter. You don't actually surrender. You don't actually believe that you can't do it. It's always a go and go attitude, and you always try to think about the positive ways by which you can rise in every difficult situation that you'll encounter. And at the same time, it's all about working with other people in a team as well and recognizing their full potentials.
So, sir, among the many accomplishments that you've had in De La Salle or post your graduation, what significant instances have you experienced as a leader?
I think the most difficult experience that I had as a leader was being part of the first, I think that was the second national tournament here in La Salle that we organized. It's what we call as the National Asians High School Debating Championships, or what we call as Nash DC. It's very difficult because I was assigned to be the public speaking director. And during that time within our organization, it's a very lean organization. We only have very few members. And the problem is, even though you're a director in a specific function, for example, you're a marketing director, you're a public speaking director, you don't have any members to support you. It's just you who will actually do the job. And I think that's a very difficult situation given the fact that you're supposed to be a director, you're supposed to be a leader, but who are those people whom you're supposed to lead? So it's a matter of volunteer management. So what I actually did as well during that time was to basically help other directors do their jobs. For example, in doing the tournament, for example, in terms of adjudication, we pulled out several volunteers as well. In terms of professional leadership, I think what the most difficult, you're asking about the most difficult instance? Or most significant instance. I think it's about being the program director for the Institute of Environmental Governance. I think that's the current achievement because just recently I think some members of the Debate Society and some other members of LaSalle came in for that event. It's an event about the promotion of environmental advocacies in local government settings. So what we did, the program, it's a program funded by the Canadian government or by CIDA, and what we're supposed to do is basically train local government executives in Luzon only, in order for them to craft policies or formulate policies that are environmentally sensitive. It's difficult because number one, I'm acting as a program director with no funds at all. Our only funds are based only for example, meetings, and our funds are very limited given by our fundraising agency. So what we did instead was basically rely on volunteers. For example, some of the students that I had, a lot of students, my previous students in several classes that I handled volunteered for the research projects or for the programs that I currently hold with the Institute. And I think that basically saves a lot of cost. And secondly, you're actually dealing with, you're actually promoting the concept of apprenticeship. You are training the students on how to become responsible already at a very young age. So I think that's a most significant instance because aside from the fact that I am able to lead people towards the promotion of environmental causes, which I think are quite noble. Secondly, I'm also able to train my students on how, not only about, for example, excelling in the classroom, but it's also about leading your students to become prepared in working in several organizations. And I think in this organization that I work for, it's very difficult because you have to be very resourceful in order for your projects to be successful.
With these two instances,
Mhm.
Of course, you had problems. Or were there any problems that really stood out?
Definitely, there are a lot of problems, but if you are a good leader and you have a positive framework that in terms of approaching these problems, definitely you'll be able to solve it. For example, in the Institute of Environmental Governance, our basic problem was firstly about finance. We have very limited resources. In fact, our financial resources are only allocated for example, administrative expenses. For example, holding a meeting and the facilities. But in terms of carrying out projects, let's say for example, local government trainings, programs, seminars, we don't have money for that. So what we do is that we have a permanent a marketing team that is composed of volunteer students who do the work for us. And secondly, we also, in terms aside from finance, secondly in terms of volunteer management. Nowadays, it's difficult to invite students to work for research projects. Number one, it deals with the trust of the student with me, for example. So it's difficult to, I think I was quite lucky to be able to get the trust of the students. And secondly, students here in LaSalle are really busy given our trimestral schedule, but still they were still able to give me productive output, and I think that was a significant outcome despite the challenges that we have in terms of manpower and in terms of finance.
So, in line with that, what do you think are the qualities of a good leader?
Mhm. I think obviously there are lots of qualities of a good leader that you could ever think of, but some of the things that come into my mind as of the moment is number one, a good leader knows how to become a good follower. I don't think that it's possible for you to become a good leader if you haven't tried becoming a follower or becoming member of a team. Remember, I use the word team as compared to a group because I believe that a good leader knows how to fit well in a team. In a team, you have a strategic goal in mind. And given the fact that you have a strategic goal in mind, that essentially means that everybody within the team tries to excel and push one another to excel and to reach their own potential towards the achievement of that strategic goal that they have. And I think a good leader knows how to become a good follower. Follower in the sense that he's sensitive enough with the problems, with the challenges, with the nature of his team. And secondly, he has very good people management skills. A good leader must be able to deal, prudently and deal prudently with various types of people. Because if you're a leader, of course, you can choose the people in your team, but at the end of the day, people are quite dynamic and they display a lot of characteristics. So at the end of the day, it's all about meeting their challenges, meeting their demands, but at the same time, making sure that that specific team member is actually able to contribute well in the team.
So, aside from you, who do you think is also a good leader?
I think there are lots of very good there are lots of good examples of good leaders that we had. But I think Lee Kuan Yew is a good leader. Obviously, in the case of Singapore, the reason why Singapore was able to achieve rapid growths or rapid levels of economic development is primarily because of the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew. Although some would say or some would criticize Lee Kuan Yew for his soft authoritarianism, I think it's about a matter of Lee Kuan Yew, number one, in terms of his technical expertise. He's well equipped in terms of academic competencies, and not only that, he's equipped with the proper academic knowledge, he's equipped with the proper skills in order to lead a very, very complex organization, such as managing a state, for example. And secondly, Lee Kuan Yew was able to instill good discipline among the citizens of Singapore. So I think Lee Kuan Yew is a good leader in the sense that he has very good skills that makes him capable of doing the job. And secondly, he has a very good framework or has a very futuristic outlook in terms of leading people. And I think he was successful in managing Singapore, which is a very complex organization.
I agree. So, when you hear the word servant leadership, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Or how does it strike you?
I think when you talk about the idea of servant leadership, it talks about the idea that you, as a person who acts as a leader, is able to lead people. We're able to lead people in the sense that